politics.
But it's also very much a narrative of resistance. And in fact, that's what I wanted to move to now. And throughout the book, you get a very strong sense of what are the strategies that should be employed for specific campaigns as well as the larger, the movement objectives. And there's a question I wanted to pose here, which is, of course, not unique to Dalit movements, but is very much a part of Dalit movements. The NGO as a means, as an ally to conduct a campaign with. I'm not going to say movement, but a campaign. The book brings out very sharply what the advantages are in terms of resources and access and so on, but also the limitations. And I bring this up because you've just mentioned the alliance, the natural alliance almost, the vexed alliance between Dalit movements and the left. So the NGO, what sort of
I think one can have the critique of NGO, and I think that is very important, prevalent critique of NGOs from larger left perspective. But perhaps this is very important to see that those communities who are historically excluded and trying to overcome from their exclusion on various avenues are asserting through limited sources. So, the kind of struggle which they are initiating is initiated through certain kind of processes. So, perhaps this book is talking about very important historical fact where how Dalit NGOs or civil society activism initiated the larger processes such as claim on natural resources such as land. So, land issue is raised by very through local strategies. There is no strategization of the issues. The strategies are innate strategies. They are responding and strategy is emerging. So, these responses are the strategies. So, because of absence of structured strategy, we can see that this response is becoming strategy. So, I think this book is talking about the spontaneous strategies. This each time the strategy is different, which is exactly different than previous or different strategy. So, this response is strategy, and I think this whatever strength which they are gaining to respond their exclusion, humiliation, atrocities is possible because of at least they are gaining certain kind of strength through the resources which they are getting from the outsider interventions such as NGOs. So, of course, one can have the critique of NGOs in larger context, but it's very important to see the specific intervention of NGOs and making them capable to empower on their own issues.
on small specific local issues,
Local
though
issues.
sometimes they can also serve as a kind of what shall I say, a safety valve, and in a way it's like applying bandages almost on a very deep wound. But if we I'd like to sort of end with going beyond the book and what the book is looking towards, which is the present, and talk not just about the NGOization, but also the kind of splintered. It seems to me that there are two challenges that the book implies at the end. One is the splintered nature of various Dalit movements in the plural, campaigns and movements, and on the other hand, the challenge of making alliances with other progressive movements. So would you like to talk to us from your point of view now in the present on this matter?
I think this is very important time where we can see the spontaneous, we can see the various peripheral groups and politics is emerging and coming together, right? So, I think this book is one of the context, but it's very important to see that how nationally various groups, grassroots NGOs, CBOs, various local mobilizations, locally political parties which do have very small presence. So, locally innovate activism which is emerging from local and creating larger solidarity, and there is certain sense of collaboration of ideas nationally. So, I think this is very important time, and perhaps with the
But
context of
also a
this.
time when there is the right wing is anxious to create a myth about a Hindu monolith, and so kind of use caste in ways that are self-contradictory, because of course we know Hindutva is very casteist. So what are the? This is why there's a special challenge, isn't there?
That's true. That's true. And perhaps we need to think about the Ambedkar's response to Hinduism or Ambedkar's response to Brahmanism. So Ambedkar in print public is very important to see that how he is criticizing Hinduism, Brahmanism by and large, and talking about the possibilities of egalitarian movement on various avenues. So, there are a lot of, I mean, if you see the corpus of Dalit writing, Adivasi writing, women's writing, or various peripheral literary movements and social mobilization, these movements and these ideas are actually growing with correspondence. They are growing in correspondence, and they are aspiring for certain kind of collective aspiration. So, I think this is very important to see that all these egalitarian ideas, ideas which is emerging from their structurally composed peripheral location, where they are emerging as a collective ideas, and this book is perhaps one of the important articulation where it's talking about the activism, it's talking about the aspiration for getting out from the caste ridden society, trying to talk about the collaborative movements, talking about the various, as you said, that various simultaneous movements and trying to collaborate with it. So, land right movement and movement against Dalit atrocities, these movements are in collaboration in Marathwada. Temple entry movement and movement for the claim on basic public civic amenities are going together. So, these are various. I think this is very important to see the multiple essentialities with this local struggle. So, yeah, so I think it's very important to see how people are emancipating through activism as well as through their writing. So, these are various avenues, these are various ways to express. So, I always see that, I mean, I read this book, I mean, when I think about this book, my father was struggling throughout the life through his own limited ways, morcha, asserting on certain issues. But when he is writing, I think he is emancipating on that avenue also.
His voice is strong and clear.
Yeah. So,
I think we leave it at that. Thank you,
thank you.
Milind, because you have alerted us to the need for a multi-voiced movement of emancipation. Thank you so
Thank you for
much.
this interview.